What I want to talk about this week is about education, quite relevant at the moment because this week the local children went back to secondary school and indeed to primary school. So I want to say a little bit about what's happened over the last 7 or 8 years in East Manchester with regards to education, particularly secondary education, but also to give a sense about the priority for the future. I think the first thing to say, when we started Regeneration in around 99-2000, the quality of education in East Manchester was not particularly good. It was a lot worse than Manchester, and Manchester's education results were fairly poor, amongst the worst in the country. We recognised, and I think the government recognised, the importance of education. You might remember in terms of Tony Blair's mantra at one Labour Party conference about their priority was 3 priorities were education, education, education. I think we've echoed that to an extent, is that we do see education as probably being the most important thing. We've got to improve the economic conditions of East Manchester, therefore education plays a big part of that. Back in 2000-2001, the percentage of local school children getting 5 A to C GCSEs, that's the benchmark the government uses in terms of getting good quality education from secondary school, was 21%. So 1 out of every 5 kids achieved that, i.e. 4 out of every 5 of our kids did not achieve what the benchmark, the minimum figure, to allow them to progress on in terms of further education, higher education, get a decent job, etc. We knew that was just woefully inadequate, and we put a huge amount of effort in terms of specific projects, Education Action Zone being one of them, working with our local schools, putting resources into the schools, helping to support the schools in terms of driving up results, driving up the quality of education. We had the latest figures coming out last week, I think it was, and it was that 21% has been steadily rising year on year. It's now achieved 64%, which is not only well in excess of what Manchester's achieving, the average for Manchester, but it's now actually above the national figure, something we just didn't believe was achievable in such a short space of time. I think the important thing is that the 3 schools that we've been working with, Cedar Mount, Wright Robinson and St Peter's, over the last 8 to 9 years, each of them has shown phenomenal improvements. Last year Wright Robinson hit over 70% of kids getting 5 A to C GCSEs. This year St Peter's has hit that mark. And I think there's, not only have we been successful in terms of making sure that the schools provide that quality of education and our school children are achieving such wonderful results. Another key element of this is the quality of teaching, but also the quality of the schools themselves. So not only is this an important week in terms of kids going back to school, but actually some of the kids in the area, a third of the kids, will be going to a brand new school at Cedar Mount, a state-of-the-art school. Last September it was Wright Robinson that opened, £43 million school, and 3-4 years ago St Peter's actually opened as a brand new school in Bellevue. So the 3 high schools serving this area have all been renewed, brand new schools in new locations over the last 4 or 5 years. And that's not the end of it. Again, one of the plans for education in this area is that the 3 high schools are all at the south part of the New East Manchester area. You live in the northern part, Newton Heath, Mars Platting, Clayton, even Beswick and Openshaw. Kids have to travel some distance to get to school, so it was always our aspiration to actually build a new high school in the heart of the East Manchester area. And starting hopefully early next year, the plans are now being more or less approved for a new East Manchester Academy that will open in Beswick, just across the road from where we are now. There will be another step in terms of driving up the quality of education. Now, what I'd equally say is that what I've talked a bit about today is about the quality of the results, the improvement in results at secondary school. That can only happen if you've got good quality primary school education as well. So we put huge emphasis in the 36, I think it is, primary schools in East Manchester that are the feeder schools for our 3 secondary schools, our 4 secondary schools when the academy opens in 2010. We've supported and worked with those primary schools to make sure that when kids come out of the primary school at the age of 11, they're moving into a secondary school and they have the basic educational abilities in terms of to progress and to flourish and to secure really good education results at secondary school. So that transition is absolutely critical. If you don't get that transition right, if kids are coming into secondary school without the basics, is that some of them will never catch up. So I think education is one of our big success stories in East Manchester. We've quadrupled tripled, the performance of children in terms of those that are getting good quality results coming out. So as before it was 1 in every 5, now it's 2 out of every 3 almost that are coming out with good quality education. Still not good enough, still further work to be done and improvements to be made, but I think what we are seeing is that, and in the future generations, is that the basics of good education will mean that kids will be going on, more kids going to further education, higher education, and moving into decent employment, which ultimately is what will sustain the future of East Manchester forever.